Final Destination, the franchise that's been teaching us to trust nothing and fear everything for the last 25 years. And today, we're going to rank it. So, diving straight in and sinking to the bottom of the barrel, we have the Final Destination. Or as I like to call it, the Final Destination that was supposed to be the final destination, but wasn't actually the final destination. 4 for short. And I think the easiest or most simple way to articulate my feelings on it would be to say that this is to Final Destination what Saw the Final Chapter was to that. Um, the CGI absolutely sucks, in my opinion. The kills are over the top in an almost lazy feeling way. And look, you can say whatever you want when it comes to the casts of characters in these movies. But it really felt to me like they were trying to go above and beyond to make some unlikable assholes here. And I don't know, the whole thing as a package, the whole movie just felt like a phoned in, uninspired cash grab of an experience. And I'm so glad that it didn't actually end up being the swan song of the whole thing and that we've gotten some redemption for the series since then, because my god. After that, though, we have the original Final Destination. And I want to be clear in stating that just because of its placement doesn't mean that I think it's a bad movie. In fact, quite the opposite. I would say that the original Flight 180 tragedy is kind of iconic in its own right. I would just say that its kills and just everything about it is probably the most simplistic and grounded in the series compared to where we'll be going in the future. And I think it's kind of trapped in that first of a franchise situation where its primary mission is less about blowing your mind with all the steak and sizzle and more about just selling you on this concept, laying a solid base, walking so that future installments will run, so to speak. But overall, a classic film. So next up after that we have Final Destination 5. The absolute breath of fresh air after the absolute steaming pile of dog shite that the fourth one ended up to be. The kills here feel fun again. The writing is a little bit more on the lighthearted or almost comedic side, but personally that works for me with some of the characters that we have here. Tony Todd is back, which is a step in the right direction that the fourth movie was sorely missing, and he delivers to us the second of two loopholes when it comes to Death's game. This one is that if you were to kill somebody, you effectively switch places with them and inherit the rest of the days that they have to live. You buy their time, basically, with the obvious con to that being that you really have no way of knowing how long the person you've just killed has. So it's really this majorly big high risk, high reward type situation, which was really entertaining to me. But overall, this is just it's a movie that feels like it's trying again. You know, it's picking up the pieces of you know the last one doing damage control and trying to make the best of it, and I really appreciate it for that. But coming in at the middle of our list in the number 3 spot, very fittingly, is Final Destination 3. Now, I think it goes without saying that these movies really tend to live or die by the opening premonitions. And this one just really sticks in my mind. You know, I think the roller coaster with the county fair or carnival setting, for whatever reason, is just the most fun to me, for whatever that's worth. The kills are definitely experimenting with a lot more brutality, you know, and it plays around a little bit with the whole vision aspect of these movies, because, you know, traditionally, you know, the premonition haver kind of has these vague visions or flashes of someone dying in ways that involve whatever it is they're seeing, but they're not really clear, they're really muddy, and they just kind of have to figure it out as they go along. But here, they tweak that by using photographs of the people involved in the tragedy. And in each picture is a clue as to how the person is going to die, so that they can then clearly look for whatever the clue is in their living environment, and genuinely attempt to prevent it, or figure it out more clearly, I guess you could say, which I thought was kind of a fun twist and a different way of doing things, obviously. But overall, Final Destination 3 is every bit of a 2006 movie in the best way, in my opinion. It just really kind of encapsulates the I don't know what you would want to call it, the extreme sports edginess that was common in the era. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but I think you'll know what I mean when I say that. But, you know, gotta love it for that, honestly. So, our runner-up is my longtime favorite until recently, Final Destination 2. Now, whereas I just said that the third one's premonition is arguably the most fun in the franchise, I would say that the second one's premonition with the log truck is the best of the franchise. And I might even go as far as to say it's one of the best sequences in all of horror. The kills overall are definitely experimenting with being more at this point compared to what the first one was, which is nice to see. We get the first and I'm gonna say the most important workaround for death here, which is that new life beats death. Now, in hearing that, you're probably thinking along the same lines that the characters in the movie actually do. In that, you know, a baby is new life. It's fresh life. Straight out of the womb, new to the world, boom, there you go. But what it actually means is that if a person is or was to die and come back, that negates death. You are now apparently beyond death's grasp, if you will. And what's interesting about that is that if memory serves, this is the one and only time that the person actually wins. Um, and I don't know why it's a situation that gets referenced or acknowledged in future movies, but they never expand on it. They never touch it again. They never allow it to happen again, which I thought was kind of interesting in retrospect. After watching all of these, that they do it in the second one and then just complete 180 away from it and never do anything with it again. Like I said, they acknowledge it. It did happen, and she is the one to beat it, I guess, to give the other groups hope. I don't know. So it's not this insurmountable thing, and there are ways to win, but it's just kind of interesting. They never really allow themselves to go that direction with it again. But all in all, this is a really solid sequel. It's nice to have Ali Larter come back as Clear Rivers is kind of this character from the original to bridge the gap between the two and be involved. And it's just, like I said, a really solid sequel. I thought that kind of builds upon what the first one was trying to do and kind of sets the stage for other ones to take the torch in the future. Um, which just leaves my new King of the Mountain, my new favorite, Final Destination Bloodlines. This is just a fresh twist on the rule set that we already know. And what I mean by that is the opening premonition does not belong to our main character. Instead, it is the premonition of her estranged grandmother that she's kind of haunted by. She's seeing it over and over and over again, and is like, what's going on here? Well, as the movie goes on, she starts to learn that because her grandmother has saved countless people from the tragedy that she experiences, that's a whole lot of lineages that aren't supposed to exist, including hers. So Death has been spending the last few decades checking off his list one by one and taking out everybody that's supposed to die. Um, and honestly, I think my favorite thing about it is that it feels like we have some fleshed out characters here. We have more than just high school students on a field trip or co-workers on a work thing. People that are just little more than being bonded by the tragedy and the order that it happens in. Right? This is a family unit that has interpersonal conflicts and all the ups and downs that families have. Uh, Before the movie happens. Now, yes, some of their issues, a lot of their issues seem to be directly tied to the premonition and death being involved from the very beginning, but it just feels like person to person, there's more to invest in for me. As the audience, which I really quite liked. Um, we get a nice little origin story for Tony Todd's Mortician character, which really couldn't have come at a better time, because as I was watching them in order to make this video, it kind of came across my mind a couple times, like trying to figure out what the guy's deal is. He not only seems to know uh, a creepy amount about what's going on here, but almost relishes in it. So I'm going through ideas in my head, like, okay, is he some supernatural entity, a servant of death who is kind of keeping an eye on things? Is he supposed to be um, a physical manifestation of death himself, or something like that? But no, the movie actually explains that, like, the reason why he knows so much about it and is helping as much as he is because he himself has been fighting death for the majority of his life. And I I I just think that it was a really nice way to not only wrap things up for that character, but obviously to say goodbye to Tony Todd as well, since this was the final role that he had before passing away, sadly. And I don't think I need to express to anyone how nice that is, or even how, I guess more specifically, um, how eerily fitting it is that that be his last role, the final time that we see the Mortician, and just the things he says before he leaves the room, and everything for the final time is just, it gives you chills, man. I don't know really what to say about it, but it did my heart good, made me a little bit sad, but it was a really nice way of doing things. So there you have it, guys. There is my list of the Final Destination franchise. But just to recap it one more time very quickly before we sign off. In last place, we have the Destination, Final Destination 4. In fifth place, we have the original Final Destination. Fourth place is Final Destination 5. The bronze goes to Final Destination 3. The silver, Final Destination 2. And the gold medalist, the brand new King of the Hill, to be taken off of his throne, hopefully someday, I don't know, Final Destination Bloodlines. But, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you in the next one.